Good morning, everyone. How are you all today? I hope you're all in wonderfully fine fettle. Amongst myriad jobs that need doing today, it's all about the sage. Beautiful salvia. I'm just sitting here under my sage bush, which I've given a bit of a hacking. So I'm going to show you my plant, and then we're going to toddle off to the shed to look at the harvest, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I plan to do with it, but also some of the other things you can do. Now, a little word of warning. I do everything wrong, according to the books. So your sage, ideally, like so many of our other gorgeous Mediterranean herbs, they want to be in full sunlight, in really well-drained soil. And mine is neither. Oh, just move and get comfy a second. Mine is absolutely neither. It's in claggy, wet, heavy clay soil. It's on the north side of the garden. It's quite shaded by the rose bush, beans, sunflowers. But I think there's maybe a bit of the sunlight that comes through the cold frame. Maybe it warms it up a bit more, so it likes it. Anyway, enough of that. Let's have a quick look and a chat about my lovely sage plant. So this was a cutting 3 years ago now. A little scrap of a cutting. And in terms of placing it here on the north side of the garden, which is all wrong, it was only meant to be temporary. The plan was that at the far end of this bed, I would develop a herb bed in full sun, facing south. But, well, anyone who's watched videos over the years will know that that's never quite happened. That bed is dug this year, so who knows, maybe next year it will be a herb garden. Never mind, so I had a rosemary cutting and the sage cutting went in. And actually it seems really pretty happy here. So in that first year that the cutting went in, I didn't harvest at all. In the second year, actually I think this is its 4th year, in the second year I harvested minimally. And then by last year, just in case you're wondering what that little crying noise is, we've got company. Last year, its 3rd year, I harvested quite a lot. Then this spring, because it was actually sprawling away across the path, as it has done again over the summer, but this spring I hacked it back really, really hard. So with these herb plants, oh Rusty, you're right in the I'm trying to show something, Rusty. Oh, where can we go? With these herbs that get these woody stems, so you can see I've hacked off just recently, which is very, very untidy, and what I'll do is I will actually cut we don't want to see your bottom, Rusty. I will cut further back, and I will find, for instance, where you see on this one, you see a little shoot of growth there, so I'll cut back to the new shoots of growth and get it under control. So there's masses and masses more to harvest, as you can see. And literally the other day, all I did was I hacked away all around the edge here. You can see where the grass hasn't grown, where it's been covered. You can also see a cat. So now that that bit of hacking / harvesting is done, it's time to deal with it in the shed. So let's go and have a look. Oh, there's masses to deal with. So I cut this little lot yesterday, but I didn't have time to deal with it at the time, so it's wilted a little bit, but that's fine, because actually what I'm going to do now is hang it to dry. So at the far end of the hanging rack, where there are no onions, I'm going to just pop them all up there. The shed smells amazing. It's gorgeous. Anyone who's ever grown sage or used it will know it's an unmistakable smell. I love it. And actually that really strong smell gives away, it sort of intimates about how strong the volatile oils are in sage and how wonderful they are to use in the home, in your medicine cabinet, all over the place, which I'll chat to you about in a second. I love it. It's a really beautiful plant. I think actually if I had a front garden to my home, my little pathway to the front door, I would probably edge it with sage, and then every time I brush past it had that lovely little release of smell. Salvia, some of you may know salvia, which is its Latin name, and that also gives us a clue, because the root of that means literally salve, or to save, to ease, to heal. So I'm just gonna wait for his nibs to finish eating, and then I'm gonna sit myself in the corner there and start stringing this lot up and talk to you guys about how I'm going to use some of it, how I could use it, how I don't use it but you might like to use it. Rusty, hurry up and finish your breakfast. And now the fun begins. So they're in a bit of a mishmash of a state. There's loads of them, some of them where the leaves have started to die back. All I'm going to do this morning is have a little rummage through where some of them I've got a massive chunk of woody stem. I'll cut that off, gradually pick off any sort of like the particularly dead leaves. Let me show you another one there. So I'll just pick these few bits and pieces off, trim that down a bit, and then basically hang them in bunches like this, just a bit of string around them looped, and hang them up and under my drying rack. I thought this was an onion drying rack. It's an everything drying rack. It's brilliant. Now, sage. Oh, I love it. So I'm sure the vast majority of you will think of it as sage and onion stuffing, Christmas Day with your turkey. I actually don't use it to eat very much, because what I know, or what I understand, is that it's one of those herbs that generally goes with meat, and of course I don't eat meat. I did read somewhere a chef describing it as a bit of a prima donna herb, in that it doesn't really like to mix with other herbs, it likes the whole stage to itself. So, there is one thing I like to do with it. I was just going to talk about what I do that's not cooking. When the leaves are fresh like this, toss them in some oil, maybe a little tiny bit of salt, spread them out in a thin layer in a roasting pan, give them a quick little roast until they're crispy. Oh my goodness, it's a really, really good TV snack. Make loads of it, because you will scoff them so quickly. But generally speaking, I'm not going to be cooking with it, I'm going to be using it for other things. And it has so many uses. Last night I was writing things down because I thought I don't want to forget all the different things you can do with it, because it's so fun. And I'm sure there'll be things that you guys do with it that I don't know of, so please let me know. So what are its properties? Antiseptic, brilliant. It's astringent. It can reduce sweating. That's probably one of the things it's most famous for medicinally, is the reducing sweating, which I'll talk about in a minute. It can reduce lactation. It is great for stimulating bile production, which we need to aid our digestion. Absolutely fantastic. What else does it do? Yes, now this is very important. It's also a uterine stimulant, so sage should not be used by pregnant women. Also, epileptics don't use it either, please. But in terms of that reducing lactation or even stopping it, it's a really useful herb if you have pretty much weaned your child off your milk and you're wanting to be able to go out and not leak. Try some sage. For the most part, in terms of using it, you'd use it as an infusion. So either a heaped teaspoon of the dried herb or a couple of teaspoons of the fresh herb chopped up in a cup of water. So like say 175 mils of water, boiled water. Let it steep for 10 minutes with a lid on. So if you've got a teapot, brilliant. Because a lot of the volatile oils are things that have those great properties in them will be released as steam, and you don't want to lose any of it. So apart from cooking, let's think, what else can we do? Around the house, the dried leaves you can put in with your linens, so you could do a little sack of the dried leaves to put in with your linens to discourage insects. Brilliant. Burning the dried leaves is a great deodorizer, so if you've got some nasty cooking smells or wet dog smells, any of us who've got a dog know that wet dog is one of the most disgusting smells in the world. Burn some dried sage. In the bathroom, or medicinally, you can make an infusion and use it as a gargle for sore throats, tonsillitis, gingivitis, mouth ulcers, that sort of thing. Really soothing, and the antiseptic quality is going to give you a nice clean up. As a facial steam, so if like me you have oily skin, a little facial steam of it with that astringent quality it has will give you a nice cleanse and just kind of make you feel all fresh and gorgeous. Hair rinse. Now you guys know I use my calendula hair rinse. Sage as a hair rinse for grey hair is really conditioning, but it also can help darken the hair. I personally, let's see in another 20 years time when I get grey hair, I mean I've got a few, I have absolutely no intention of darkening my grey hair. My grey hair will be a sign that I've lived long and prospered. But if you do want to darken it, can darken it a bit. But more than that, it's a really, really good conditioner for grey hair, which tends to be a bit drier, excuse me, and a bit more brittle. I was talking about the fact that it aids with bile production, so it's really great as a digestive. It can also help to clear up diarrhoea. I mean, it's an absolute miracle herb, isn't it? Apart from the fact that it looks gorgeous in the garden and it tastes yummy, all those different uses. I'm just going to have a little look at my writer to make sure I've not missed anything, because there are so many brilliant uses for it. No, I think I've pretty much covered things there. But one of the reasons I'm doing this big harvest today is a friend of mine who is quite a bit younger than me has had to have a hysterectomy, and by having that she's been sort of forced into menopause early. And one of the main horrible symptoms of menopause, from what I understand, is the night sweats. People wake up soaked in the night, and it sounds pretty dreadful. I'm dreading it. Sage, because it helps reduce sweating, can help with those night sweats. So what you would do for tackling your menopausal night sweat symptoms is 3 cups of sage tea a day in the quantities I mentioned before. So a heaped teaspoon of the dried herb in a cup of boiling water, let it steep for 10 minutes, strain it, don't drink the actual herbs themselves, just drinking the liquid, and that 3 times a day. So I've heard it works really, really well, so I'm hoping that I can get a load of this dried and ready to give to my friend to help her out, because she's having a miserable time, poor girl. So I better set to, hadn't I, and crack on with this lot, because there's masses and masses. And as you saw from the bush a few minutes ago, there's still absolutely loads out there to harvest. So I'll be doing a whole load for her, I'll be keeping a whole load for me, and at this rate I'll probably be giving some away to other folk too. So if you've grown sage this year, start harvesting, get it dried, and then once it's dried, start experimenting with some of those things I've mentioned and see how you get on. If you've got the grey hair, if you're going to use it as a little grey hair rinse, let me know if it actually does work to darken. I have heard that it really helps to condition, but I've never seen evidence of the darkening. That's kind of a bit apocryphal, so we're really keen to hear from you guys if you try it and it works. It's like, I can't remember the make of that shampoo for blokes that makes the hair go back to dark. Anyway, I digress. I've got a lot to do, so I'm going to crack on with it and say for now, cheerio, happy harvesting, whatever you're harvesting and however you're going to use it. Have fun with the harvest and then with the using of it later down the line. Happy days. I'll see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, take care.